This is our fourth lesson on quadratic equations. This time we're going to be solving quadratic equations by completing the square. This is a really powerful method. We can use this to solve any quadratic equation. If you don't know how to complete the square, go back and have a look at video 4.4. I know it seems like it's ahead, but we started with chapter 4. Alright, so let's start by solving this guy here. First thing we're going to do is complete the square, so we know that this has to be x plus 3 squared. So that has to be 3 squared plus 9 minus 9. Now this and this are the same, because if I were to multiply out x plus 3, I would get x squared plus 6x plus 9. And I'm left with minus 25 on the outside here. And now it looks like a question from last lesson. So I'm just going to add 25 to both sides. Get 25 equals x plus 3 squared. Square root both sides. And I get 5 equals the absolute value of x plus 3. Which tells me that x plus 3 is going to equal positive or negative 5. Subtract 3 from both sides. X equals negative 3 plus or minus 5. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. So there's our two solutions, and let's just make sure they both work. That guy works. Oops, missed my squared. That guy's also true. Okay, so notice we're going to do completing the square from lesson 4.4. That gets us to here, and from there we just do what we did yesterday, because it looks like one of yesterday's questions. Alright, going to do the exact same thing with number 2. So first I want to rewrite this with the space. So that has to be x plus 4 squared, which means that's plus 16 minus 16. So that's minus 34. Add 34 to both sides. And now I can square root both sides. So I get root 34 equals the absolute value of x plus 4. So x plus 4 is going to equal positive or negative root 34. Subtract 4 from both sides, and I get x equals negative 4 plus or minus root 34. And that's all we can do with that. We can't reduce the radical or simplify the radical. We can't add those two together. And now time for a really nasty check. Let's do negative 4 plus root 34 first. Alrighty, so notice that. I'm just going to do this off to the side here to save some space. Negative 4 plus root 34 squared is going to be negative 4 plus root 34 times itself. So when I rainbow that in, I get that. And then collect like terms, 16 and 34 is 50. So negative 4 plus root 34 squared is 50 minus 8 root 34. And not surprisingly, because we're going to equal to 0, we've got plus 8 root 34 minus 8 root 34, and our numbers cancel as well, so we get 0 equals 0. Okay, time for some good news for you guys. I'm not going to expect you to do that check every time. The check's actually harder than the question. What I would like to see is a decimal check to 3 decimal places. So I'll show you how to do that with the second one here. So our second one is negative 4 minus root 34, which is approximately equal to negative 9.831. Notice I still expect an exact value for the answer, but I allow you to use a decimal, the 3 decimal places for the check. So that gives us 0 equals and when I plug that in, I get 0 equals negative 0.0006 approximately. And notice, because you're going to have rounding errors, you're never going to get exactly 0 equals 0, but that's definitely going to be close enough. And when we look at the next question, when we do both our decimal checks, we'll see there's one more kind of check we can do with our decimal checks. Okay, so again, you don't need to do a big nasty check like that on these. All you need to do is find the decimal and fire it in, like down here. Okay, and let's have a look at our first example from the textbook. So I get x squared minus 10x, leave a space, plus 3 equals 0. So that's going to be x minus 5 squared, so that has to be plus 25 minus 25, which leaves us with minus 22. Add 22 to both sides to get the squared thing by itself. Square root both sides. I get the absolute value of x minus 5 equals root 22. So x minus 5 equals positive or negative root 22. Add 5 to both sides. Okay, so there's our exact value answer. To do our checks now, we'll see that x approximately equals 9.690 or 0.310. Okay, and let's do some decimal checks over here. And that gives me negative 0.0039. And that's close enough to 0, so that's good. Let's try the other guy. And here's our second check. If you did everything right, these two numbers should be the same. So even on our approximate decimal checks, we should end up with identical approximate decimal checks. Okay, so even though we're not getting 0 equals 0, we can still check and make sure that those two approximations are the same. And same thing for number 3. So 2 is half of 4, so we end up with x plus 2 squared. 2 squared is 4, so that's plus 4 minus 4. And that gives us plus 1. Subtract 1 from both sides. Oops. And now we can see that the left side has to be at least, or it has to be 0 or more, because it's something squared, and this is negative. Not going to be possible. No solution.